Senator Jacky Rosen of Nevada is a former computer programmer and is a champion for investing in STEM. She's the co-founder and co-chair of the first ever bipartisan Women in STEM Caucus in the Senate. Welcome, Senator Rosen, and thank you so much for joining us for this conversation today.
Oh, well, it is so exciting to be here. Thank you for having me. There's nothing more that I love to talk about than women in STEM.
Excellent, excellent. And we will get to that, but just wanted to touch on a few news of the day questions, particularly out of your home state of Nevada. We know that Judith Whitmer, the former Nevada Democratic Party co-chair, was voted out. And now we have Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe-Marino taking her place. It seemed like there was a bit of an intra-party struggle there, and something we're sort of seeing broadly in the Democratic Party across the country. Wanted to get your reaction to that piece of news.
Well, first of all, last weekend, Danielle Monroe-Marino had a historic win, an overwhelming win, number one. And number two, she made history as the first Black woman to head Nevada Dems. And so we're very excited, her and the Unity slate, with their overwhelming win, what they're going to bring to the coordinated campaign. We know Nevada is a battleground state. Races are always tough there. I'm top of the ticket. It's going to be one of the most competitive races in the country. We need to be on our game, registering voters, getting our message out, and being sure that everybody comes out to vote. That's what we do best in Nevada, and Nevada Dems with Chairwoman Monroe-Marino at the helm will be ready to do that for us.
Yeah, and of course, the chairwoman will be at the helm when you face re-election next year. And we know that your colleague, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, faced a very close re-election, but ultimately came out on top in that race. Going into 2024, how are you feeling? We know you don't have an opponent yet. Obviously, it's still very early in the game. But how are you feeling? What are you doing to prepare?
Well, I can tell you that I've been here for the last 6 years. So the first thing you do to prepare is be sure that you're working on the kinds of things that show people in Nevada how you're investing in them. So whether it's our Nevada families, our Nevada seniors, $35 insulin, free vaccinations. I urge everyone to get that shingles shot. So important. My parents suffered from that when they were alive. But our veterans, we passed the PACT Act for good paying jobs. We have the bipartisan infrastructure law, investing in our airports, our roads, broadband, particularly in our underserved and rural communities all across the frontier parts of Nevada, really important. So we're going to continue to do that good work, but we have to get the message out, and we have to organize voters to be sure that they know who to vote for. That's where the Nevada Dem Party comes in. The organization there with the coordinated campaign will help us register those voters, be sure that they understand the stakes. We are ready to do that. We're starting to organize now.
Right, right. So I want to talk about your story and how you got into politics, but also how you got into computer programming. I mean, it's amazing because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a computer programmer, and then the late great Senator Harry Reid ended up calling you and, sort of encouraged you to run for office. How did that all play out, and what has it been like serving in really two male-dominated fields?
Well, I'll tell you that I was getting a degree in psychology. I was at University of Minnesota at the time, and I was working on some research, and I was told to go down to the math department and share some of the information. So the guys in the math department, it was mostly guys back then, would help make a program for you to show how they use the data. Well, I kept going down there to work on this research project, and I loved what they were doing. So I started taking a few classes, but I was already far enough in my degree that I completed my degree in psychology. I then moved to Nevada, followed my parents out there. They moved to Nevada in 1975 or 76, and came out to Nevada and really wanted to work in computers. And so I continued to take classes, actually at what's now College of Southern Nevada. I got a job at Summa Corporation, which was the Howard Hughes companies, and began my career as a computer programmer, which was very exciting. I stayed doing that until I left my career, and we'll talk about this too, to take care of my parents and in-laws as they aged. They had a lot of responsibility there, and I stepped away. And it was right after they passed away that Senator Reid did come and speak with me about running for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. What he shared with me was something that I think is really important for people to understand. He said, "You're going to make a difference." He said, "How are you going to make this difference? Let me tell you. You're going to listen to the stories of the families in your state, up and down, of the businesses, large and small. You're going to hear all the things that are important, what people worry about, what they wish for. You're going to take those stories to Washington, and you're going to work on legislation that brings those stories forward. Your constituent services are going to help people in the state. Again, like I said, hearing their stories, helping them, whether it's Social Security, disability, veterans, Medicare, and the like. And so when he explained it to me that way, the connection between taking the stories, understanding what matters to people, and then how do you connect those two, that's what convinced me to run for Congress. I won for Congress in 2016. I took the leap to run for Senate in 2018, and here I am up again for election in 2024. We've been doing the good work, and now it's a matter of just continuing that and getting out the vote.
I love that you talk about, him saying that you'll get a chance to tell those stories, because the theme of Women's History Month this year is women who tell stories. So that meshes perfectly. But one of the stories you have told as a lawmaker is the story of getting more women and pushing for more women to get involved in STEM, and also girls, because we understand that this begins at a very young age. I want to get your perspective on where we are as a country in terms of women and girls at the younger age getting involved and being involved in this field. It still seems like it's very male dominated. It still seems that younger girls, younger women are often pushed in maybe a different direction when it comes to career paths. But where do you feel that we are as a country on this issue?
Well, I think you're exactly right. We still have a minority of women in all the STEM field, which is why one of the first bills I was lucky enough to get signed into law was my Building Blocks of STEM, which uses programs with the National Science Foundation to help teachers, particularly in those young grades, to be able to bring these kind of plug and play programs into the classroom. What does that mean? I want kids, young boys and girls, but especially girls, to see the creativity in these jobs. One thing that I loved about my job as a computer programmer is that it was a problem-solving job. Someone came to you with something they hoped to do or a problem they wished to solve, and it was up to you to figure out how you did that. And it is creative, it is dynamic, it is ever-changing. You are always learning. And I want young girls to see that those kinds of things are for them, not for somebody else, that they can use the natural skills they have to compete and to work in these jobs, and they're really fulfilling, and they're not for someone else. I think girls are particularly suited, the attention we pay to detail, our ability to communicate, so many things. And so the younger we bring these programs down in the classroom, the more open young minds are for them to be able to absorb these kinds of concepts and realize that they're exciting to them.
And I would love to chat more about why it's so important to have women in STEM and what they bring to the table. There was an interesting Pew Research study out last week that talked about the gender pay gap in this country. And part of the reason for that gap was because there aren't as many women in these fields like STEM that tend to pay more. So, why is it so important to have these, women in these, leadership positions in STEM? I mean, what does that do for the field as a whole?
Well, whether you have women in medicine, engineering, chemistry, math, computer programming, all the STEM fields, and there's so many more than that. Accounting is STEM. You can have people become CFOs of an organization if they're an accountant, right? And so it's really important to have the diverse voices and give women a pathway there. It matters. And so I just think it's important all the way around for women to understand that these paths are open to them. Give them the resources and opportunity to pursue that. And also, I would argue that we're going to have a lot of challenges in this 21st century. And we know that somewhere right now in the third grade, whether it's a young man or a young woman, there's a kid out there who's going to solve, maybe invent the next great thing, write the next symphony. Maybe they'll write the next big musical like Hamilton, or maybe they'll cure a disease. We don't know, but we have to be sure that our education is robust enough to allow kids to see the possibilities that are out there for them, to see themselves doing these jobs so that they can take on these challenges when they graduate. That's what's important, and particularly in STEM, because healthcare, engineering, biology, and chemistry, all of those things so important to our lives. And of course, cybersecurity, computer science, technology, all that, we live with it every single day.
You know, my final question to you has to do with your colleague, Senator Shelley Moore Capito from the Republican side of the aisle. It's been really, cool and interesting to see two women from both parties on Capitol Hill really tag team this issue. I'd love to hear more about that, you know, some of the progress you've been making, and would love for you to highlight anything that's in the works.
Well, Senator Capito and I can tell you we have a good friendship, and we thought about all these ways that we can empower young girls. Here we are. There's a minority of women still in the United States Congress and in the United States Senate. So we wanted to show girls that they can have any career that they dream of, that they should see themselves in there, and that STEM was a really great way to do it. And so, of course, we're reintroducing our STEM Restart Act. So if you have taken time off work for childcare or caregiving, like I did for my parents and in-laws, this allows you to get training, retrained as you stepped away from your career. So if you want to reskill or upskill, that's really important, the STEM Restart Act. We're also working on another bill for small business access for childcare. This is really important, again, for caregivers to empower women who are taking care of their families to have access to quality, affordable childcare. And what this bill will do, actually I'm on this bill with Senator Ernst, is to allow nonprofit childcare to have access to small business, all the small business capabilities. So if you're a church or a synagogue or a boys and girls club, there's childcare deserts, urban and rural, all across this country for affordability. We want those trusted sources to be able to have access to resources to bring that down. So there are a couple of things we're doing there. We're going to continue to work on the education front, but we have to support women doing it now and young girls going forward into the future.
Absolutely, and we're so grateful for the work that you and Senator Capito are doing on this issue, and I encourage our viewers right now, for those tuning into this event, to not think about and learn about STEM just on Women's History Month, but to continue the work going forward and to encourage young girls and women to get involved in this field. Senator Rosen, thank you so much for your time.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.